Guys, am I audible? I'm not sure whether you're able to hear me. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
I
you.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, so yeah, we want to discuss today sections basically. And of course, from the short video that has been described, we now fully grasp or basically have an idea of what sections are regarding road or basically roads design in the roads design workflow. Okay, and they matter in in our design process. Why? They essentially bridge, right? They essentially bridge the gap, between the design intentions that you had and the construction reality. Okay. We get to have, a detailed picture, right, or an image of how the road and its surroundings is going to be, okay, at every, at particular set intervals, okay. And they are very important and they're significant because, they essentially, define the physical shape of the road, right? We'll be able to make out all the layers, just like what you're able to see on my screen right now. This is just a small excerpt or a lift of a book of drawings in one of the projects that was done along the coastal area of Kenya, right? So this was one of the cross sections produced, and I thought it was really nice. So I thought I will display it as we try to model our cross section, maybe to reflect or to look somewhat similar to this. Okay, this might serve as our guide or as our point of reference as we get to generate ours on Civil 3D and do modifications. Okay, from the default cross section to what can actually be read or details made out. Okay, so we can be able to basically show the pavement layers like the subgrades, the subbase phase. We can also be able to see their thicknesses. We can be able to indicate the widths of our carriageway. We can be able to illustrate where the ditch are, the flow lines, and all those elements that make up our road. Cross sections are also important because they get to help us define or calculate earthworks, right? In the previous session, we were able to do QTO, quantity takeoff, which was basically earthworks calculation. There are many ways we can create a materials list, but we focused on cut and fill. Right? The software is able to create or generate earthworks for you from the cross section. Yes, we had not, created it yet, but the software already had all the information. So the moment you did your sample lines, it was able to get cross section from that, then calculate the volumes using the average end area method. Okay, by simply doing an estimation of or calculation of cut areas or fill areas, then of course multiplying by the difference in intervals at which it's getting those areas, okay? Basically the intervals of your sample lines. So, further away from earthworks calculation, we can be able to, visualize the design features in detail, right? Basically, we're just essentially making a slice, okay? A slice of the road. And it makes it easier, for us to understand or compare, the plan and profile. Plan and profile is not enough. Yeah, we need to have sections of the road to be able to make out the rest of the details that pro plan, cannot show and profile cannot display. Okay. So, another reason that I think that cross-section might be important is regarding, compliance. Okay. So to ensure, your design meets the set criteria or set design standards, for things like safety, comfort, even the drainage capacity of, of your design. Cross-section might be a good place to start and cross-check, and simply make out those details, okay? So that is essentially it about sections, right? And maybe without taking too much time, I will go straight into it. Today we're going to go straight into the software and we're going to be creating those sections. And further from that, we are going to be also trying to modify the views, how it's going to be displayed. You know, we can try to have the labels, basically understand our way around sections and how we can get to edit them. Now, of course, further on, there could be templates, you know, company templates. You could have your own personal template, whatever it is that you work with. So you don't have to be modifying these things every now and then, but it's just as equally important to understand how you can actually, you know, modify so that every single section or a single design that you undertake, you'll be in a position to, you know, display what is only relevant for your case. Okay, so there's multiple ways we can have our sections, or we can choose to view them. The important thing is to understand how to manipulate that and get what you need. So understand that we already have the sections within the software. So we are not creating them, but we're simply, you know, just bringing them into view and getting to understand how to display them. Okay. So this is you know, a design done by one of us, Crispin, and we have all these. You know, we've done our horizontal alignment, right? You have your sample and created that you used to do, you know, your quantity takeoff or your quantity, you know. So we do have, you know, two alignments. We had the main one and we had this secondary one at this point, okay? And they both have different sets of sample lines. We did have, you know, our vertical design or vertical alignment design. We did our data bands with another thing that we can be able to display during plan and production. Remember, we did our assembly, which we used to create or model our corridor, okay? Our corridor. So now that the design is complete, I want us to display our sections, just like how these other elements are displayed. And the way to do that, right, is always through the ribbon. From the Home tab, you do have the Profile and Section Views panel, okay, where we can create a profile view, sample lines, and section views. Now, our interest today lies under section views, right? And you do have multiple choices under section views, where you can get to create multiple views, just like what we are about to do today, right? And of course, if you hover your cursor over the command, you'll see that the software simply explains to you what that command does, right? It creates multiple section views for a group of sample lines along an alignment. So not multiple alignment, but along a single alignment. Now, if your interest is just to create one single section view, you can do that from this option, okay? Now, if you also want to project objects to your section views, if you want to create multiple views, you can use this. And if you want to project objects, you know, to your section view, a single one, you can use this option, right? So I want us to create multiple views. I don't want us to create only a single section. I want us to create multiple. So I will select that option. And once you select create multiple views section, we will have this window come up. Now you can get to decide how, or, you know, basically manipulate how your section is going to be created, okay? Now under general tab, right, we can get to select an alignment through which we want to create the sample line, okay? Not the sample line, but rather the sections. Now, if you select that arrow, you will have a bunch of alignments listed if you have created multiple alignments in your drawing, right? But if you have only one alignment, that is the only one that you're going to have, so you can select it. And then, of course, after you select your alignment, you can be able to select the sample line group that you created during the last session, okay? Now, I'm going for this particular demonstration, I'm going to select the secondary alignment, which doesn't have many, you know, many sections. And I'm choosing that for demonstration purposes, okay? Because I don't want the software to keep on, you know, lagging, if I might say so. As you create you need more sections and having a large or a big, I'd say, corridor, it's going to take extra processing power. So you might experience some delays here and there, but just bear with us. Or, you know, just try as much as possible to do what you can. But yeah, that's basically it. You can be able to select the alignment and can be able to select the sample line group name that is associated with that alignment. Okay, remember you can have multiple sample line groups within an alignment. And this might become handy in areas where, let's say, for example, you have a different sort of material, in situ material. Say, for instance, you have a hard material within a certain section and you have soft material within a certain section. You might probably want to treat them separately. So you might create different sample line groups for both of these scenarios, right? And then you can be able to compute sections for particular section, okay? So I'll go with secondary alignment, and within secondary alignment, we only have this. Remember these green boxes, you can be able to choose physically or on through the model space. Okay, so if you are unable to tell which alignment it is that you're working with, you can always choose this option to go to the model space and simply select on the alignment. You can also get to define station range. Okay, the station range of your interest. Where do you want to see your section? Okay, so automatically the section is going to pick for me from start to end. Okay, so if you pick your alignment, it's going to display maybe from origin 00 all the way up to kilometer 8 and so forth. But since I've chosen the secondary alignment, which wasn't that big, it ends at 586, and I'm going to choose that. But if for any interest you'd like to have, you want to specify the sections or the range of sections that you want to see, you can choose it from here by simply typing in, the chainage, and you'll be able to create sections for a particular part. Okay, so it's not really necessary for you to create all of them at a go. If you wish, if you would like to have section for a particular bit, you can do that. So for now, I'll choose automatic. There are not so many. Okay. Section view name is going to define basically the naming, if I might say convention, or the naming style for your sections. Okay. So we'll leave it as default. So it's going to just give it the name of the station, which are in terms of chainages. Okay. You can have a small description to describe your sections. Under section view layer, you remember, you guys, I know you understand how you can get to create new sections and select a layer through which your sections will be placed. But for this instance, I'm going to maintain the default layer that has been assigned for the section, which is this. Then section view style, we are going to see these at a later stage, okay? I want us first to create the section so that once we start manipulating the road, the section view style, we'll be able to understand what it is exactly that we are modifying. But of course, if you already have a background with Civil 3D, you can already do it from here, okay? And be able to create a new style, you can be able to modify current and whatnot. Also, if you're working with a template and you already have a set style to view your cross section, you can be able to select it from this point or from this bit. Okay, so I think by default, Civil 3D gives us the road section and maybe this land desktop section. So we'll just go with road section, the default one, and then we'll modify later. So once you're through with the general selection at this point, you can click next or simply select the next tab. So I'll select next, and we can get now to pick a placement option, and of course choose a group plot style. Section placement, we do have two placement options, which is draft and production. Now we will discuss in detail production when we get to the plan and production, where we get to discuss more about the layout and everything. Okay, when we get now to actually produce these files or produce these elements. But just as a quick guide, production option, basically you use as a layout from a template file to place section on sheets. Now, if you already have a template, you can navigate to where it is using this option, 3 ellipses, okay? So once you select that, you can be able to find the drawing template by, of course, selecting these 3 ellipses, and you can be able to navigate where you've saved that template, okay? So for example, if I wanted to work with an existing template that is provided by Civil 3D, I'd simply go to plan and production. And once you get to plan production, you can be able to see you have multiple templates that you can use to create your section. Okay. This, I believe we are all working under the metric. So we'd probably go with the metric section. You'd select it, and then you simply click open. So under that template, we do have several layouts, okay? We do have layouts, styles. Under that template, you can be able to select the one of interest to you so that you can be able to produce the sections, okay? Now, since I want to use the draft, remember the draft option, we also have another option, draft option, where we can place the section in a grid model space. And remember these, we cannot produce sheets using this option. So if you want to produce the sheets, you have to use the production where you already, have a set out template for the same. Okay, so I will choose that option. Under group plot style, we'll see about that later. Okay, once we start manipulating the styles. Once you're through with this, you can be able to select next. Now, offset range, these are sections, okay? You can be able to dictate the offset to which you want to display your road cross-section, okay? This not being a major project, we'll probably go with the 15-meter interval, okay? That is automatic, simply suggested to me by the computer or by the software, because that was the swap width that was selected for, the sample line. Okay, so if you chose a sample line offset, swap width of left to 20 meters and the right 20 meters, that is what is probably going to be, suggested at this point. But that should not be a limitation because you can be able to specify, the offset. If you feel like you want 10, you want 15, you want 20, 25, that is your choice. You can be able to stipulate at this point. Okay, so I will let it out automatic, but feel free to choose your own offset. And then once you have that, you can click next. Now we want to adjust the elevation range, okay? There's automatic, it varies from section to section, or you can specify what height you want to view your sections, right? I suggest you leave it as automatic. Software is intelligent enough to determine each section and specify its height options, okay? You can click next to get to section view display option. Now you can be able to select, the sections that are of interest to you and you want to display or to draw, okay? Now, the software simply tells me that, in my cross sections, I already have the existing ground. This is an element that we can draw. We do have our corridor that we created. We do have our surfaces that we created in our corridors, okay? And we also have, if you did your QTO, quantity takeoff, you will have the ground removed and the ground field displayed, okay? That is your choice. If you want it displayed or you don't want it displayed, you can select from here, right? For example, if you don't want to display the existing ground, you can uncheck that option. But since we are interested in checking or in simply viewing the ground and all these other elements that we created along or during our design process, I want them all displayed, okay? Now you can also adjust the styles through which, they are displayed. Things like colors, thickness, line thicknesses, hatch patterns and all that. That can be modified from here. And, you can get to play around with that. But more on that later. I want us first to create the section, then we can be able to discuss the styles. So once you have that selected, you can create next, or you can click next. And you do have the data bands option. Sounds familiar? Remember when we were working with the profile, then we were able to create these data bands, right? You can also do the same for your section. You can have data bands for your sections. Now, for this particular project, it may not really be necessary to create the band for the cross section, right? Because we are going to use another method to label our drawing, which I want us to discuss once we start or during the last stages of this session. We'll be able to discuss code set style, where we are going to be labeling areas or points of importance on that section, okay? So, but if you're interested in creating data bands, you do have the options here. You can be able to select them that you want, want major and station offset, then you can be able to manipulate them exactly the same way we did the profile data bands, okay? So for this particular drawing, I want us to have something similar to this, okay? So I will choose no data band, all right? I will choose no data band or none for that matter. And then we can click next, all right? But if in the event that you've chosen to have data band displayed, remember you can also choose the location of that data band. It's very common that you place it at the bottom, just like what we have at this point. But if you choose to have it at the top, you can be able to select the location of that data band from this point, okay? So for us, that doesn't matter since we're not having any, we can click next. And under section view tables, just like what you're able to read at this point, section views include the volumes tables, okay? So we earlier on during QTO, we did material computation. Now, if you want those material computation displayed next to your sections, you can be able to create them and select them and add them at this point, okay? So for example, I'll select total volume, and then I do have only one table style, which I will select, okay? And once I select that, you can add it so that it's displayed or it's part of part of your sections, okay? So I'm going to click add, right? And you can see that this is the table that is going to be displayed. The style adopted is basic. And then materials list, if you have multiple materials lists created in your analysis of your volumes, you can select it from here. For this particular drawing, I can see we have only one, which is cut and fill. So we'll select that materials list. Then we can, we are through selecting or making our selection of how we want our sections, okay? So having done that, remember, you can also dictate the position of the tables, of course, relative to your section view itself. This being the section view, okay? And this being the materials table, okay? The table. So if probably you want it, say you want it top left, notice what we have. If you want it, middle right, notice how your table is going to be. So you can get to choose all those options. So I'm going to maintain back to what we have it at the top right, but feel free to, adjust as you wish. You can also offset this table from the cross-section view using this offset with the X being horizontal and Y being the vertical axis, okay? So once you have that selected, you can now move over to create section views, and I'll select that option. Once I select that option, the software is going to prompt me to identify section view origin. So I will simply choose to place it away, of course, from these other drawings or these other elements that we created, okay? So I'm going to place it somewhere, maybe here. And the software is going to take a few seconds, or depending on the amount of processing you're producing and the speed or the processing power, will vary maybe between 0 maybe to 40 seconds, not sure. Okay. So here we go. We have just created our sections. Okay. These are the representation of the sections that we have along our corridor. Okay. The corridor being the secondary alignment that I chose. So this bit. Okay. So these are the sections. And that's how you do it. And that's how you get to create sections. But from the look of things, seems like we cannot be able to, make sense of the data that we have here. So we're going to be manipulating the styles and the display and whatever it is that we deem fit for us to be able to proceed. Okay. So by the look of things, it's not really proportional. The volumes table are too big, the sections too small. We can be able to adjust that. This is a buffer line that serves not any purpose at this point. So we'll probably get rid of that buffer line, right? We'll improve the grids, right? Seems that we have a lot, or the interval is quite big, okay? We'll also adjust the colors, to have the colors merge, color of the grids maybe to merge with the model background for now, right? We're going to reduce the scale of these volumes tables. So there's a bunch of modifications we can be able to do to simply have a section display or look nice, okay? So where do we start? We can start from anywhere. We can start from the volumes table, the style. That's going to be your choice, right? So I'm going to start with the style first, right? I'm going to also relook at the interval of our grids, and we'll be adjusting it as we go, okay? We'll be applying them and seeing where we need to do further modifications. So to do that, you can select any section, right? You can select any section. Then you can right click. Remember, you still have those options at the ribbon, so explore them. Just have a personal preference for the right click option. Usually has what you need. Our interest is going to be under section view group properties, okay? The same option, I think, under the ribbon should be right here, view group properties, okay? No, but rather the section view properties. But if you want to do it for a group, you can do it under view group properties. So I will use the right click and go to section view group properties. Ensure you select group, because whatever modification you'll be making on any section, that change will be applied to the rest of the sections. All right. So I will select section view group properties. And once I select that, we are going to have the section view group properties window come up. Okay. So this is what we have. We only have two tabs where we can manipulate the section views, right? The section views, and we can be able also to manipulate or modify the sections. These are the sections, the actual section, okay? So section view, then the section from this bit. So I will get us back to sections, okay? I will get us back to section views rather. This is where we are going to start us off, and we are going to be discussing first about the view. Let us improve the view, all right? Where do we do those modifications? Under style. Remember, we had earlier on selected road section as the style that was default. By default, it was available, okay? So we'll probably modify this, okay, to fit our style or our style of view, okay? So I will select road section, and of course, that is what we currently have. And maybe I want to modify what I already have, okay? So instead of editing the current selection, I will simply maybe say copy current selection so that I maintain this default style in its current format. Then I will probably rename the copied style, maybe as road section 2. Okay, of course, you understand your way around here. You can be able to, insert or take credit for your work. And then under graph, this already looks familiar when we want, it looks like just like what we were doing under profile view, right? Where we got to do graph, grids, what and what not. Same thing for the sections. I'd suggest you leave vertical exaggeration as 1, okay? We don't need any exaggerations when it comes to the sections, so you can leave it as is. Then under grid, I'd say for my section, yeah, I'd say for my section, we don't need to clip, unlike the profile view. We don't need to clip our grids. So I'd uncheck those options. I want to view the grids all the way through, like what we have at this point, okay? I want to view those grids. So I'll deselect them. Then of course, this tab under title annotation is going to dictate how the title of each cross section is going to be displayed. We don't have much interest around the title, okay? But for your own sake, you can modify the text height if you so wish, right? You can modify maybe to even something like even 1 millimeter. I don't know what is going to 1 millimeter is going. If it's going to be too small, you can check. You can also adjust the styles. I know you guys already understand how to can do this, right? You can choose the format that you wish to have and whatever, okay? Of course, once you have that, you can send it there and then you can say, okay, right? Just a moment. Okay, so you can select that, and it's basically going to dictate the style of your title annotation. You can also choose to offset it to X or Y. That is going to be your choice. You can, play around with the figures and see what you get. My bigger interest lies around the horizontal axis and the vertical axis for the grids purposes. You can see that under horizontal axis, in the bottom, of course, the bottom axis, we have our intervals at 10 meters, major interval, okay? Now 10 meters is a bit quite too much for sections or road sections, so we might reduce that to something like 2 meters for a major tick or for major grids. Then for minor ticks, I'm going to reduce it from 5, maybe to 1 meter, okay? This should be able to define or make it look a bit better, okay? Tick and the text heights, you can be able to adjust them from here. For now, I'm going to leave them in their default stage. Label text, of course, you can modify the styles and whatnot, just like what we said, right? You want to adopt a style that looks okay, all right? So you can adjust that style from there. X, Y offset, self-explanatory. You can be able to adjust how that label is going to be displayed relative, or the position relative to where the tick is, okay? So you can do the same for the minor ticks. I don't think I'll be displaying the minor labels, so no need to adjust, okay? Then if you head over to the vertical axis, you also need to check the grids interval, major and both major and minor, okay? So I'd probably say 2 meters for minor, or for major rather, then 1 meter, for minor ticks, okay? And just like what we discussed, you can be able to adjust the labels and the text heights and whatnot, okay? So we'll be able to see in a few what those labels or text heights look like, so that if we need to adjust further, we should be able to do that. Now, under the display tab, you can be able to simply select or choose what components are displayed, what are visible, what are the colors that you're interested with, and whatnot, right? I probably want to have the grids, okay? I want to have these grids, the grid major, horizontal, and minor, right? These grids are horizontal major and vertical major. Maybe I don't want white. White is a bit too loud, if I might say so. I'd select a color that matches with the background a bit, so that we have more focus on our sections and not the grids. So I'd probably select a duller gray color like that, probably. And then I will apply it, okay? Maybe I will okay these changes first at this point, and then we can adjust further if we so wish. So having selected or created that new style or modified it, I can say okay. And once I have that, I can simply, let me do this. I can simply click apply and see how the new sections are going to appear like. So I will select okay, and then we will come and see what else we need to modify further. Then we can get back to our section view, right? The text, that the annotations are quite large. We can reduce that style or that size. We also need to reduce the size of the table, okay? Maybe we will reduce it 5 times small, we will see. And then we also need to display the bottom axis labels, right? We need to display them. Maybe we need to also switch off these the right side annotations, right? The section is a bit small, so no need to have both ends labeled, right? So to do that, we can get back just like what we did under section view group properties. We can be able to adjust what we need further, right? So I'll probably start with the tables, right? I need to reduce the size of the tables. You can go to change volumes tables, okay? Under change volumes table, you can create or select that 3 ellipses, right? Notice what we have. We are back to where we were selecting our tables. So what I need to adjust is the size of the table. So this is the current style, right, under style. So you can select this icon at that point, and you should be able to pick your table style or adjust it, right? Maybe I can edit current selection, no problem, but if you choose to copy new, no problem, you can do that. Current dimension are like this, 4.17. Maybe I want to do it to 0, let's say 0.8, right? We can do 0.8, 0.8. This is almost 5 times smaller or 6 times, I don't know. Right? It's once I adjust these text settings, it's going to automatically adjust the rest, even the tables or the lengths of these, the sizes rather. So I'll simply say click apply. And remember, this is the structure. This simply dictates what figures you are displaying, right? Like for example, in our volumes table, we're displaying the cut area, fill area, cumulative cut volumes, and so forth and so forth. Okay, but you can be able to change it from this point. So I will apply and okay. I will say apply, all right? This is what we have for our tables, okay? Maybe we can even reduce it further, and then we'll get rid of the buffer line by simply switching it off. So maybe instead of using 0.8, I'll probably go for maybe 0. Okay, let's try 0.5. 0.5 shouldn't be too bad. I will apply it and okay it and okay. Then we can apply it, right? And there we go. This is what we have now. This seems like it's a bit good, so I'll say okay. About the tables, seems like it's okay now. Now I want us to get rid of this label at that point. So we'll get back to our sections, okay? We'll now edit current selection because that is what I'm editing. Okay, so for this right axis, I'm going to go to the display, and under right axis annotation, right? I'm going to switch that off, okay? And I will apply, right? We don't have it at this point now. Then we will further adjust, maybe we will just switch off the buffer outline. It serves no purpose at this point. So I will apply, right? Once I apply, okay. And we select apply, the buffer line disappears. We can also check and have the offsets of our title annotation maybe nearer to our section. Okay, that is still under style. Just to edit current selection. Remember, under title annotation, we can now probably have the Y offset not at 15. 15 is too far. Maybe we can even reduce it to something like 2. Right? Apply. Okay. If I apply now, yeah, this is what we have now with the title annotation. You probably don't need this outline, right? Probably get rid of the border. Doesn't really serve any purpose, but you can choose to have it on, right? There we go. Now we need to reduce the size maybe of these, okay? Annotations, so still under style, okay? Just edit current selection. And then I'd probably go for horizontal. This is vertical axis, right? Vertical axis, we can have the text height at probably, let's see, maybe can we go for, let's see, 0.5. We don't know how it is going to look like. And then the offset seems like it's a bit far, so we can adjust the offset. You'll notice that it's at -4. Maybe we can have it at -0.5. I don't know how it's going to be, but we can adjust as we so wish. So I will apply and okay, and okay, and apply. This is what we have now, right? And maybe we can also introduce annotations of the horizontal axis, which seems like it's not on, right? I will adjust the current selection, of course. So under horizontal axis, the bottom axis looks like, yeah, we've done that. Let's have the display on bottom axis. So we'll search for bottom axis annotation. We'll switch that on for the major only, okay? So I will apply and okay. And okay. Let's apply and see. Text style or the size too large. So we'll still get back to style. We can adjust and maybe have smaller, where's the horizontal axis, and text height for the major. Remember, we're dealing with the major. We can have it probably at 0.5 like the other one. Now we'll apply that. Okay. Okay. Remember, you can also adjust things like colors and whatnot. I will leave that to you. So once you press apply, this is now what we have. Maybe we've decreased the size a bit too small, but this is essentially the display that we have for our section, different section. Okay. Right, this is what we have. Seems like it's a much better off, closer to what we have with this. Okay. Following our creation or modification of this, I want us to start adjusting, the section views. Okay, I want us to start adjusting the section views themselves. Not section view rather, but the sections. Okay. You can see the way it currently is. We do have our existing profile, not profile, but existing surface in white. We have our section, which looks like the urban section assembly. Okay. We have the shading of the cut and fill areas. So I want us to adjust these further to make sense of the data that we have. Okay. And how do we do that? You can select the section view, right? And under section view, you can right click and get back to section view group properties. Okay, we did discuss about sections and section views and sections, right? So we were dealing with the views first. Now we can head over to the sections and we can be able to adjust the style to, make it a bit legible, presentable. Okay. Now, notice the sections that we have, and we do have our styles at this point. We did select that we wanted them drawn, but if you choose at any point that maybe you don't want to have the existing ground displayed, you can choose from there. But you can adjust the styles, okay? So I want us to start with the existing ground, okay? We do have our existing ground. Probably we have like this one in red, okay? We can do that for our case, right? Existing ground, you can modify the style from here, select that. Then you can do, edit, maybe, okay, let's edit current selection so that we have as one style for our existing ground, okay? Of course, under display, remember we are dealing with the section. That is the view direction. It's currently in color white, but we can choose to have, it's the segments that you are interested in. We can choose to have both segment and points at a different color so that we don't confuse it with the other elements, okay? So once I have that, we can simply click apply and okay. That is what I'd probably want to change. And you can notice that our top surface and our datum surface are still adopting the existing ground style. I'd prefer that we have a different, colors for them so that we are able to make out those details when we are viewing the sections, okay? So I'd probably now go for, maybe you can even choose finished ground and maybe you can see what finished ground color is. It's in this color, okay. Okay, we can probably adopt that. We'll say apply and okay. We'll say okay for finished ground. Then for the datum surface, we can probably have a different code or color for that. So I will now copy current selection so that I don't adjust the current style that I have, right? I'll probably call it even, I'm not sure, what will I call it? This is the datum. Maybe I even could just call it datum surface to remember that this is the style for that. Okay, then under display, I'd probably even remove the red. I don't even know what to use. Maybe you can go with that. right? Even for the point, I'll go with cyan. I will apply that and okay. We do have styles for our ground removed and ground fill. Maybe we'll, I don't know, maybe we can adjust that style too. Let's see what we have for our cut material. Maybe we can edit current selection. This is what we have, right? We have the red and we do have a hatch style, okay? Which is this. Seems like the scale is a bit too large, so I'd probably maintain this color and maybe adjust the hatch pattern. We will see why we select or why we adjust the scale. Let's see, we can have a much smaller scale, maybe 0.0. I don't know, 0.06, how it's going to look like. So I will apply that and okay. For the cut material, maybe for the fill material, I'll also adjust the current, current selection. We'll have 0.006. Remember, the sections are a bit too small, so that's why I'm reducing the scale. Yeah. Then I will now maybe apply and see what we are going to have. Right? So let's apply the changes and take note of what we have. Okay, so maybe we might need to improve the cut or the fill patterns, the hatch patterns. Maybe we'll do this from the code set style. Seems like from the section hasn't kind of worked for us. Remember what we had for existing surfaces, we had our top surface, which is in this. Maybe I tried to have that. All right. And maybe before we further proceed, I'd like us to improve this style first. So we can do that by simply selecting the section itself, okay? Ensure the section is selected, okay? Not the section view, okay? And then a very important bit is the edit code labels, okay? So we might be able to adjust, let me remove that. We might be able to adjust the styles also from that point. But before we do that, or before we get to our edit code labels, maybe let me adjust the style of this. Looks like, yeah. Okay. We do have the current code, okay, where we can get to, adjust the links, we can get to adjust the points, and we can get to adjust the shapes, right? Remember when we were discussing assemblies, we did mention what links are, what points are, and for that matter, what shapes are, okay? So we're going to be seeing how we're getting to adjust those styles and everything else associated with it. But if you take note of this, we only have a shell code, right? The software identifies that we need to adjust or insert codes, but doesn't know what to associate it with. So what we can simply do is simply import, okay? We can import the codes from what we already have. What do we have? We do have our assemblies. The assemblies already have all the codes associated with that section. So we can import from our assemblies and then modify from there. So I will import the codes. Once you select that option, it's going to prompt you to select sub-assemblies, assemblies, or corridors to import the codes from, okay? So we'll simply, of course, zoom out and navigate to where you created your assemblies. Of course, you need to understand what assembly you used. If you had multiple assemblies, you need to select the assembly that is associated with those cross sections that you are modifying. So I think this is it, the urban assembly, if I'm not wrong. So I will select this. And then once you select it, you can type enter. and it's going to import the codes into your code set style. Now you can be able to now modify or adjust them as you wish, okay? Now these codes, of course, are associated with the section views, okay? And what I want, or my interest at this point, is rather, is it on the shape? We have this basic, trying to see something, okay? So the reason why this is all white, maybe I might show this. Let me just say apply for now so that we don't lose them. Need us to understand what we are adjusting before we proceed. Let's get back, to our sections. Notice that we have the white hatch for everything, okay, for our layers. That's because the shape, right? The shape is in basic style, okay? So we need to adjust that style and give it a more proper style, okay? So we can get back to our edit code set style by selecting that. And once we select that, we can get back to this, and we can go to shape, okay? We want us to start off with shape, and then of course we'll be able to discuss the points and whatnot, how we can improve the styles, the label style, and what is really important for us, okay? So I'm going to start off with probably the shape, okay? Check this out. We have the basic style for every single layer, but we can assign them, different styles, different or whatever colors. But I don't want to go through the hassle of doing that for every one of them, every single layer or whatever component we have. So I'll simply select that style. Okay, you can select this small icon at that point under style. This being base, maybe I'd probably select the pre-existing style for base for me at this point. Okay. Then maybe for the ditch, right? Do you have a sign for the ditch? Not sure. So, okay, we'll leave it as basic first. Maybe for Pave 2, because those are the ones which are shaded or hatched, I will make sure that we choose another style. For Pave 2, I'll probably select even Pave 2, but you can always adjust the styles from here as you so wish, okay? So I'd say that. Subbase, you can also select subbase from here, but maybe just to illustrate that you are at liberty to adjust this style. I'm not going to select subbase, I'm going to adjust it, okay? What style will I use for subbase? Okay, I'll choose subbase, and then I'm going to edit it, okay? I'd say copy current selection, maybe just give it subbase 2. I'll name it subbase 2, just to indicate that I adjusted it. And in terms of display, I'm going not to have a shape area fill of solid pattern. Okay, I'll probably ensure that I change, maybe I'll change this shape area fill to, maybe we'll do this. Maybe I'll have a yellow color for that. Then for the pattern, I'll probably, choose another different hatch pattern by simply selecting the pattern that you want. So type, I don't want solid fill. You can choose predefined. Okay. So of course, if you are used to AutoCAD, you already know these hatch styles that you can be able to choose. Maybe I'd go for gravel, assuming my subbase is gravel. Okay. I'd choose that and I'd say, okay, now we do have a different pattern or hatch pattern. Probably reduce the scale. Okay. I'd say apply and okay. Now I do have a new style modified, but feel free also to modify these other styles as you so wish. So I'd say, okay, and I can go ahead and apply. And this is now what I have. Okay, so bit by bit, you can be able to improve your sections. Just a second. Now you can see the different style adopted, for your different layers. We had chosen pave 2 for that, pave whatever figure for that. Then we have also adjusted a style, for our subbase. All right. So that's about how you can modify the style for that. Maybe now we can move over to our code sets, labels, and we can discuss how we can insert the labels for different areas of our section. Okay. So I'm going to, of course, simply select the section once again. Let's select these small circles to ensure that only the section is selected, right? Don't make a mistake of selecting the view. Then I will move over to edit code labels, okay? Then now what we want to do are the points. Remember, these are points. Let's say, for example, the crown, we do have the top of curb, we do have our ditch, and whatever, ETW, edge of travel way, whatever points of interest you'd like to add the labels to. So under codes, okay, I'll select points now. Remember, we were under shapes when we were discussing these hatches or whatever it is. So we'll go to points, and under points, our interest will be probably at, we'll probably under the label style, okay? Not the style, but the label style. Now, you can change. You can see that we currently have no style attached to our labels. That's why we don't see any labels to our sections, but we can change that, okay? We can create a style, for each of these, but it may not be, may not make sense to do all these modifications one by one. So maybe we can probably create one style. Then that one style for the labels, we can be able to use it for the rest of our points, okay? So for example, I'll maybe go to crown. I know I want to see the crown. I want it labeled. I want to know the offset of the crown. Of course, it's at 0. I want to know the elevation, okay, of that particular point. Now, if I want the edge of travelway or edge of paved shoulder, whatever it is, I also need it displayed or labeled as the edge of travelway. Give me the offset relative to the center line, and also give me the elevation, right? Sidewalk, maybe I'll be interested with label for the sidewalk or whatever it is, okay? So I'll go to crown, right? Maybe I'd start from there. And then I'll go to label style, click that icon. Then you do have a style. Right now it's at none, but you can be able to choose and edit, okay? So I don't know if I'll go for view edit or offset elevation, whichever, you can choose any style, just do your modification, right? You can even create a new style. Okay, maybe to make my work easier, I'll choose a pre-existing style and just modify that. So I'll choose that, and then I'll go to copy current selection. Then now that I'm modifying this, I'll probably name it offset elevation 2. I'll change it off completely. I'll probably call it COE to denote. Then I'll give it a description, maybe code. Then I'll probably call this offset, right? Then I'll probably call this elevation. Okay. Under layout, this is where our interest lies today, right? Remember when we were adjusting styles for our data bands, same procedure, nothing new, right? If you get a hang of how you can modify styles, it's just the same throughout the software, okay? So, don't know whether I should delete or maybe one like that, so that I only remain with the line that I want, and I also remain with the component's name where I can define how it's named. So maybe for the line, I probably not want a very long line such as that. I probably maybe have, I don't know, 2 millimeters. We will see how that 2 millimeters looks like. Then under offset elevation, Probably just give it a new name, COE. Yeah, visibility, yeah. Anchor component line, yes. Anchor point, probably don't want it at the start. Let's have it, maybe at the end of that line. Text height 2.5 seems like it's so big. Maybe let's try 0.5, like these other labels that we had, or even smaller than that, right? Maybe 0.35. Our rotation angle, we can have it as such, written upwards, because we have a lot of maybe points we might need labeled. Attachment, bottom left, I don't know about that. Middle cent, does it look okay like that? I'm not sure. Okay, maybe we'll try that top left first. Maybe for the X, we'll probably say 0. Okay, 0 doesn't seem like it works as I wished. Okay, let's see if Y works. I'm not sure. No, what about 1? Okay, 1 seems like it's about it, maybe 1.5. Okay. Then now contents. Our interest is in the content, okay? What do you want displayed? Just like what we said, we want code, offset, and elevation, okay? So I'll go to content, under contents, 3 ellipses, select it. You can delete whatever it is that you have there so that you create yours afresh. Okay, select it, backspace. Then I will have to start as off. I'd probably type, or I'll start with the format maybe. Oh, it's in Arial. Okay, I'll select that, or I'll pick that. Maybe I'll change the color to this. Then under properties, I probably want the subassembly code, right? I want the point code displayed. So I do this. So once it displays the point code, I want probably, you can have, maybe a space, semicolon. Then I can maybe type in, because once we have our code, then offset, maybe I want to know that the figure that I'm looking at is offset, so I type offset, right? Maybe comma. So it gives me the offset. So I want you to display the property of offset. So point code offset, subassembly point offset, yeah. Don't need the precision to be that big. Okay. That should be okay. Then you can do this. So it's going to display the subassembly point offset. Then maybe I can give another space and then full colon, another space. Then I'd probably go for, after I have the offset, the elevation. So I want to know that it's the elevation I'm looking at. So I'll type 11, right? Maybe I'll do a comma, but just choose whatever, how you'd like to see it. You can choose, to have commas, semicolons, hyphens, whatever it is that you so wish. Okay. So elevation, I choose to use comma. So I'll use elevation. Then I want you to display point code elevation. So the subassembly point elevation, I'll select that. I want the precision to this. Okay. So I'd select it and then do this. And once I have that, we can say maybe okay. All right. So we've defined how we want our, our content to appear. Okay. So we do have our line and our component, how it's going to be displayed, right? So I'd simply maybe click apply and okay. We've just created a style or a label style for our point, okay? Code offset elevation. So let's apply to our crown and see what we get, okay? So this is how it looks like. seems like it's a bit off, so we are going to adjust the offsets and the attachment points, all right? So that it's much closer. Maybe we can reduce even the text heights, and then we can apply the same styles to other points of interest, okay? So we'll get back to where we were. Simply select the section under edit code labels, under points, expand points, and style. We can adjust the style. Edit current selection. So this is what we are adjusting, sorry. So anchor point is at the end. Seems like that should be the case. Let me check this. This should be line end, top left. Can we have that maybe reduced a bit, or even have it as 0.2? Maybe 0.3. Just bits of modification. And you can have Y. Let's see what 0.5 works for. Okay, 0.5 seems a bit much, so 0. Maybe 0.75, maybe 0.8. Oh, all right, we'll just see what this looks like. Maybe we can adjust further the text height. It was a bit too big. Maybe I'd use 0.2. Let's see. Let's apply that. Okay. Apply to a new style. Okay. Now we can use the same style since we've already created the same style. I mean, we have created one style. We can use it for, I don't know. Let's see. Is this edge of corridor? What is it? Okay, we can also have the ditch. Yeah, we would like to see the elevation of our ditch in. Okay, even the ditch lead face probably. I'll probably go for this style that we just created, and I'd say, okay, adopt that. Maybe ditch out. But remember, this is going to be different if depending on the type of assembly you used. So we're just simply assigning the style or the label style for that matter. Okay, areas of interest. I'm attaching it to the points of interest, of course. Maybe lead top, not really want to have that. Footpath in, maybe we can have elevation of the footpath or the sidewalk displayed. Top curb, maybe we'll see. That should be it. According to me, we will apply and we will see what we now have regarding the code labels. So you can do further modification, of course, of your, your offset, but doesn't matter if the text goes outside the view, right? We're going to have space for that, but maybe due to the overlap in our text annotation or our title annotation with the code labels, you can adjust that. So a quick way to interpret what we have, right? We do have our crown at that point, offset being 0, right? And the elevation at that chain edge being, that 1805.045 and whatnot. So maybe we can get, instead of having top of curb and another one for the, this is the sidewalk, right? You can get rid of one. Seems like they're the same elevation, right? So we can avoid these overlaps unnecessarily. So you can delete or remove one label and just have the necessary one displayed, right? We have EC, not sure if it stands for edge of corridor, not corridor, edge of, what is it? We'll just cross-check with the Civil 3D manual, but this is it. And you can basically manipulate your your code labels as such, your view as such, your tables as discussed. Maybe the other thing that I might want us to work on is the hatches. I don't know why the hatches didn't pick. Let's see. These hatch patterns, I'd like them to be in much better view. Okay. So let's see, we select that, and then we can move over to section view group properties. Okay, under sections, of course. Ground remove, ground fill should be in this area. I thought we had adjusted this. Maybe I'd go to copy current selection and just name it 2. And then we'll move over to, oh yeah, we are still there. So it's edit current selection. So under display, seems like we were in the plan. So maybe apply it to the section. That must be the reason why it didn't apply. So improve the hatch. I still need to maintain those hatch, but maybe with a much smaller scale, right? Now if I apply, this is what I have for my cards. Maybe we can do the same for our fields, right? I'll do current selection, not under plan, rather, but section. View direction is the section. Then I'll have the scale reduced further. Okay, so once I apply that, maybe now you can navigate to where you have field sections in your drawing. And you'd see, right? So this is what we have. This is what we have for our sections. Maybe we can improve the shape fill for our sidewalk, right? And our ditch, okay? I know by now you guys already understand how you can do that, right? So simply just select the section itself and of course navigate to edit code labels. Then of course under shape, right? We do have your lead, you have your curb, you have your footpath still under basic, but you can adjust that, okay? So let's see. This is for the ditch. I don't know, maybe we can have, we have a pre-existing style for ditch. I don't see one. So maybe you can create yours afresh, or you can even use, I'm not sure what I would use. Maybe I can use that style, just a random style. Footpath, I'd probably adjust the style. I know by now you guys already have a hang of what you are doing, right? Can even use green for that matter. You understand how you can adjust these styles and patterns. So I'll let you guys do that, okay? Maybe reduce this to, so I don't know. Then I'll say apply, and okay. So basically that's how you can move around. It looks like I chose a style similar to the pattern of fill, but you guys have just feel free to adjust as you so wish. Have whatever style that you want. do these modifications, adjust your tables, and just create your cross-section. Then, of course, during the next section, we're going to be discussing how now you can do plan and production. Okay, so just do that. I mean, for your next deliverable, I don't intend in taking too much of your time. You can take the time to practice, and then we should be able now to do, we can be able now to produce sheets in our next session, particularly for the plan and the profile. Then, you can use the same methodology to create sections for your, you can use to create sheets for your cross sections. Okay, so that is what I had planned for today, guys. At this point, maybe I can take a question in case you didn't understand before we call it a day. All right, I'm going to assume that we've completely understood. And so what we can do now, we will share the recording and the short videos to accompany it to assist you complete that deliverable. This being, of course, the second last session. And yeah, we look forward to meeting with you guys in the next session. And yeah, let's keep practicing. So that should be it from my end. I wish you all a wonderful night. Thank you, guys.